So I'm going to make a bold claim. There's a book that if you read it, I think it will double your chances of having a long-term successful relationship. And that is The 5 Love Languages by Gary Chapman. So I've done some videos on dating in the past, but this video is really about romantic relationships, whether that's at the start of one or you're in a long-term relationship that's been going on for many years or even longer. The reason why this book is so powerful and beneficial is that it equips you with some ideas that solves one of the biggest problems in relationships, and that is transparency and communication. Ultimately, everything in the book is about how you communicate in one of various ways towards your partner so that their needs are met and so are yours. So the main idea is that there are 5 love languages, and each language resonates with different people to different degrees. So for some, one of the love languages might be their dominant one, whereas for others that might be their least important. So there are 2 important steps that this book helps you figure out. Firstly, what is your own love language? Because without knowing that, you're unable to really communicate that with your partner. So you rely on their observation and their ability to kind of figure this out by themselves without actually knowing for sure. Whereas the other step is knowing your partners. And again, that equally requires them to understand this idea, but also your ability to be able to kind of work out with them what their love languages are. And then you're able to kind of communicate and cater towards their needs, and then they can reciprocate as well. So the author, Gary Chapman, is a relationships expert, and he's worked with countless couples, both at the start of their relationship and married couples who've been together for years or even decades. So he began to notice when working with these couples that certain patterns started to form over and over again with the people who he was working with. And over time, he started to piece these things together and form the idea of love languages. So it's interesting, when I brought up the idea of love languages to people I've met, friends, family, and so on, I tend to be kind of greeted in one of 2 ways. And one of them is kind of curiosity. Maybe they haven't heard of what love languages are, and it sounds like something that could be interesting or even beneficial. But there's definitely a portion of people who seem to view love languages in the same way that people view astrology, in that it seems to be this kind of pseudoscience type thing that doesn't really make sense. But largely that's because they don't really understand what it is and how relevant it tends to be when it comes to sustaining and making the most out of relationships. So what are the 5 love languages? Well, we have quality time, physical touch, words of affirmation, acts of service, and gifts. So it's worth noting that love languages tends to refer to you on the receiving end and what needs you have in the relationship, as opposed to what you tend to kind of do or give towards your partner in order to kind of show your love or affection or appreciation for them. So for example, the love language of gifts, it's not so much how you tend to communicate with your partner and whether you like to give gifts to them, but how much or how important gifts are in terms of whether your partner gives them to you and how much you appreciate that and whether it caters to your needs in a relationship. So now I'm going to do an overview of each of the love languages and how you would cater towards your partner if that love language tends to be their primary one. So again, it is possible that your partner might have more than one primary love language or even 3, but most often there is one that tends to kind of stand above the rest, and then other ones kind of go in descending order. So I personally think it's quite useful to kind of know where the order is across all of them. So starting in 1st place all the way to 5th place, kind of know your relative order of love languages. So if one of them is at the bottom, your partner can then realize that they can place less emphasis on that type of love language. So words of affirmation focuses on written and verbal expressions of both love and appreciation. So if someone's primary love language is words of affirmation, they tend to appreciate compliments or being shown recognition for things that they've done well or put an effort into. They also tend to appreciate just generally kind of kind words. And also they like reassurance and to be encouraged when things are maybe not as good as they would like. So quality time could be in the form of deep conversation or shared interests or doing activities together. But most of all, it's having that uninterrupted space where you 2 can be together. So in the case of words of affirmation, your partner needs to feel that they're wanted and admired and loved through words. Whereas in the case of quality time, it's much more through not so much actions, but actually time. So having time together makes them feel like you appreciate them. Because for some people, they can easily give them words, or they can, as we go on to future love languages, you'll see there's other ways of kind of showing admiration or love towards your partner. But really this kind of quality time and spending isolated and uninterrupted time together is what is most meaningful to that person. So the next one is receiving gifts. And again, I'll emphasize it's receiving gifts, not giving gifts, because they are two different things. But because love languages tends to be directed towards you as opposed to away from you, then it's the receiving of gifts that is most important. So the other thing to note is that people often confuse this particular love language with someone who is high maintenance or someone who demands things of high monetary value. But actually, gifts doesn't necessarily have to be something that's expensive. It's more so just the gesture of actually receiving something that they actually enjoy. So this could be a sentimental gift. It could be something like a photo from the first time you were together, or it could be some kind of souvenir or some sentimental thing that you picked up on a trip that shows not so much that you put money into it, but you put time and effort and thought into it. So for these people, gifts holds strong emotional significance. The act of receiving a gift is how these people feel loved more than anything else. So the next one is acts of service. And this one, like quality time, really revolves around the concept of time. However, with acts of service, it's not so much about spending time together, but actually what your partner would appreciate is specific tasks. So whether that's errands or doing chores or doing nice things like cooking or cleaning or various other things that makes the person feel like they're appreciated and nurtured, that is the thing that they care about or appreciate more than anything else. So physical touch is the love language that emphasizes the power of physical affection. So this could be anything from hugs to holding hands to kissing or cuddling or anything that really involves physical contact. So people with this love language tends to feel most connected and loved when they are physically connected to their partner. This is because it communicates warmth, intimacy, and just genuine affection. So the big question is, how important are these love languages over the course of a relationship? Well, unfortunately, many couples tend to naively assume that how they like to receive love is often how their partners, and therefore you can have a mismatch, or you are communicating in the wrong style, or in this case language, over a long period of time. And this can often lead to either dissatisfaction or even potentially resentment if this goes on long enough. So in the book, Gary Chapman goes through a number of examples with various couples who have come to him with problems in their relationship. So often the couples themselves are not actually familiar with the theory of love languages, but they know intuitively that there's something wrong and that their needs aren't met. However, the other partner tends to not understand this because they are meeting what they think is their partner's needs in the wrong style. So it could be the case, for example, that the husband in the relationship actually has words of affirmation as their primary love language, but he kind of naively assumes that if he likes words of affirmation, that his partner or wife also does. However, in this particular instance, his partner actually prefers quality time, but because he's been providing her with words of affirmation, words of encouragement, and telling her how he feels, she kind of sort of understands that he's giving what he likes, but actually in the context of the relationship, it doesn't resonate with her as much as it does for him. So for me, this is why the concept of love languages are so powerful and thought-provoking, is because not only does it help you give towards your partner or cater towards their needs, but actually it helps you understand yourself, what are your needs, so that you're better able to communicate to them how they should try to communicate to you. So I can only imagine how many couples there are out there who are communicating with their partner in the wrong love language, assuming that everything is fine, and then over a period of several months or years, kind of dissatisfaction or resentment starts to creep in, and then they start to wonder, like, is this how relationships are supposed to be? Whereas if you read the book, you will start to realize that many couples who they thought that their relationship was unsalvageable or beyond repair actually were repairable because they just didn't understand these fundamental concepts or ideas. So the other interesting thing about this is that most couples equate general relationship dissatisfaction with sexual dissatisfaction, but actually it's been shown that those people who feel this particular way, it doesn't stem from their sexual needs not being met more often than not. It's actually that the other needs in a relationship are not being fully catered for. So when you actually resolve these fundamental things, you will find that other areas of your relationship tends to actually increase along with it. So sexual satisfaction tends to be an overall byproduct of relationship satisfaction, not the other way around. So all in all, I think reading this book may surprise you in the potential that relationships can have once the basic needs are actually met. And if you're also curious about how to kind of officially find out your love language rankings, if you go to the website, which I will link below in the description, you can do a short quiz, which will take you about 5 to 10 minutes at most. And this will give you the results. But, this isn't absolutely necessary either. You can often infer them yourself. And once you really think about these things, it'll often become obvious to you what your order of love languages are. But if you want that extra layer of kind of certainty or confidence, then the quiz is definitely a good way to go. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Feel free to let me know what you thought or if you have any suggestions going forward. But I will see you in the next one.